Social media saw some sharp comments on Old Town Road's behalf. Country artist Megan Lindsay. It's got plenty of country elements, and it's as country as anything on country radio. Billboard responding to the backlash by saying their decision to take the song off the country chart had absolutely nothing to do with the race of the artist. Lil Nas X had his own response on social media. Just because Old Town Road has funny lines doesn't mean it's parody. It has a theme. Anybody with ears can tell I put some kind of effort into that song. And there are, of course, successful African-American artists in country music, not about that. And some of us remember the days when Prince couldn't get played on rock radio. So it's about some fans hoping that all genres not be so restrictive. Let's face it, being open to new sounds, new artists, new influence can be good for any kind of music. Michael?
All right, thank you so much, Chris. And Bobby Bones, he's the host of the nationally syndicated Bobby Bones Show, and one of the most powerful and respected people in country music has joined us now. So Bobby, thank you for joining us. Get right to it. Is this a country song?
Yeah, why not? I mean, I think country music, it's always about the message. You know, and
Funny how white folks are outraged over Lil Nas X and the #1 song in the country right now. White folks are saying he's disrespecting the legacy of the true Cowboys. Really? The true Cowboys? The original Cowboys were black. They're talking about boycotting Wrangler, saying he's disrespecting country music. He's making a mockery of country music. Black people created country music. They want to boycott Wrangler due to their partnership with Lil Nas X. So let me get this straight. White folks can dibble and dabble into anything and everything they want. They can get into our culture, but if we get into something that they think is theirs, black folks just let them borrow country music. The original Cowboys were black. The origins of country music were the black slaves. I mean, let's look at the old Westerns. Those old Western movies and TV shows were the #1 movies and the #1 TV shows in the early 40s and the 50s. Western TV took over for about 3 decades, between the 40s and the 70s. I mean, we're talking Wagon Train, Bonanza, The Rifleman, The Life and Legend of Wyatt Earp, Gunsmoke, Maverick, Sugarfoot.
I'm sorry I called you a sugar.
The list goes on and on and on.
That's all right.
Tombstone.
By the way, what does that mean anyhow?
The Lone Ranger, who was loosely based off Bass Reeves. Look at the movie Django, who was loosely based on Bass Reeves. Denzel Washington's character in The Magnificent Seven, who was loosely based on Bass Reeves. So let's talk about the original Cowboys.
Is a culmination of West African heritage and the Spaniards, which the West Africans are herdsmen, and they're still herdsmen today. During the slave era, they were brought here for their herdsmanship. The herdsmen worked their cattle with dogs, sticks, and rocks, and whistling and sounds. And that culmination of those two people put together made the expert horseman. And every third cowboy back in that era was of either Spanish, Indian, or some African descent.
That's why they call cowboys. Back in those days, a white man would call you a boy even if you like 100 years older than him. That's what he would call you a boy. So that's why this cowboy come in there. And most of the black cowboys, they'd be out on the range. We would do all the work. Whatever's supposed to be done out on the range, well, the black cowboy would do it.
But Hollywood would have you believe that there weren't anything but Anglo-Saxon cowboys. It's the rich, rich, rich heritage and history that has been not fairly documented.
Contrary to what movies and TV has told us about the cowboy, The first cowboys were black. They were black slaves. The word cowboy had nothing to do with roping cattle and hell raising in the high plains. The word cowboy came from social customs that wouldn't allow black males to be addressed as Mr., men, or gentlemen, or any other title that conveyed status. Cowboy was often applied to black slaves in the Southeast who worked in cow pens. Their job was to herd in the livestock in Georgia, Alabama, and South Carolina. The label boy was a constant derogatory term for black males that included not only cowboy, but houseboy, field boy, stable boy, and underboy. An underboy was a personal servant during the Civil War. After the Civil War, new land rush laws sparked for the westward movement when 15 million new European immigrants arrived after the later part of the 1800s. But ranching and the cattle industry, especially in the Southwest, especially across the Texas Gulf Coast, was solely dependent on black labor. Many of the slaves served as cowboys before they were let free. Nearly 1/3 of the 35,000 cowboys who drove cattle from Texas between 1866 and 1895 were black. Many of these black cowboys distinguished themselves in the cattle towns of the Old West. Some of their achievements was a credit due to their race. Others were not. In Dodge City, for instance, the first man ever to be shot was a black cowboy named Tex, who was an innocent bystander to a gun battle. The first man ever to be arrested by authorities in Abilene, Texas was an unknown black man. His friends were so outraged that they shot up the town and they tried to stage a jailbreak. Nat Love was a black cowboy. Nat Love was said to have ridden with Billy the Kid and Jesse and Frank James. Also Buffalo Bill. Cherokee Bill, another black cowboy. Now let's look at Bass Reeves. Bass Reeves was born in July 1838 in Crawford City County, Arkansas. Born into slavery, when he was a little over 9 years old, his family moved to Grayson County, Texas. Later in Bass's life, Bass and his owner got into an argument over a poker game, and Bass beat the brakes off this dude. So Bass had to escape. He fled towards the Indian Territory, which is modern-day Oklahoma. There, Bass lived with the Seminole, Cherokee, and Creek Indians, and they taught him everything he knew. They trained him on how to hunt, how to fight, and how to kill. After the Civil War, U.S. Marshal James Fagan was instructed to hire over 200 deputy U.S. Marshals, especially the ones who could speak the Indian language. Bass' name was ringing everywhere, so Fagan searched out to hire him. In 1875, Bass became the first black U.S. Marshal at the age of 38. Bass was an impeccable marksman. He was also nice with a blade. and he had them hands too. In 1882, Bass arrested outlaw Bill Starr for horse theft. In 1889, Bass took down the Tom Story gang. Bass hid and ducked off on the side of the road while the gang was traveling. Bass approached Tom with an arrest warrant, and Tom panicked and drew his gun. So Bass pulled his gun and lit everybody up. The original Cowboys were black. Thanks for watching. Make sure you thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe, share. Appreciate the love.